Very welcome to you all to this launch of the open access Laudato Si Integral Ecology Collection. But before presenting the collection and our panelists, just a few housekeeping notices, as we are used to Zoom, but just to say that this event is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please switch off the video and your microphone throughout. And please keep your microphone off unless you are asking a question in the Q&A session at the end. So we are very pleased and honored to launch this collection, which is the outcome of a long process, which would never have taken place without any of you today, and especially the panelists. Each of you has contributed in one way or another to the key books in integral ecology being made accessible to all. First of all, we will hear from Adam Walton, who has led the whole process from conception to life. And he will tell us more about the global survey he conducted to inquire if such open access library would be useful, which books should be made open access, and how he works with Knowledge Unlatched to provide the online library that we will see today. After Adam, we'll hear from those who have participated in the survey and why they see this collection as a useful resource in their context. It is a great pleasure to have with us today Cheryl, who joins us from the Philippines, from the Laudato Si movement, Xavier in France, from the Centre Sèvres and the Campus de la Transition. Then we have Peter Knox, who joins us from Nairobi in Kenya, from Ekima College. And then Adrian, who joins us from Córdoba, from Argentina, from the Red de Universidades para la Casa Común. And then we'll hear from the institutions who have provided generous funding for making these books open access. The Laudato Si Research Institute at Campion Hall, the Georgetown Environmental Justice Program, and then the University of Notre Dame. And we'll have representatives from each institution, Jennifer, Clemens, and Celia, the director of the Laudato Si Research Institute, who will tell us about the reasons for their support for the project. But before I give the floor to Adam, just a few words about the collection itself, and I'll share my screen. Just a second. Just have a short PowerPoint. So the library is divided into two sections. The first section, which we are launching today, are books that have been published in paper or e-format, but they were behind a publisher paywall. So these were the books that you could buy, but only accessible if you have the credit card or access to a library that could buy the books. And then the second component are the books which are published open access at the time of publication. And you will see from the website that the books that are already open access are at the bottom with a link to their respective websites. And we have 3 levels of access. We have the introductory books for those who are newcomers to the field of theology, eco-theology, or ecology. And then we have the intermediate level for those typically kind of at the undergraduate level, and then advanced level for those who are undertaking academic research in the topics. And we have 5 categories of books: the eco-theology and systematic theology, then environmental ethics, then ecology, economics, and international development, and then biblical ecology and ecological hermeneutics, and then transdisciplinary integral ecology. And as you will see in the library, that each book will have its level of access indicated at the top and its category, so it'd be easy for you to navigate if you are, when you are reading or searching for information. And the books that we are launching today are there. I've put a ribbon around them. It's as if we are in a physical library and we are cutting the ribbons. But symbolically, what I will do, I will press a button, and after I cut the ribbon, Yin will send the link, the live link to the books, so you can go to the PDFs of the books at the same time as I cut the ribbon or unlock them. So Yin, if you can send in the chat the link to these books being made available to everyone who has an internet access. So I won't stop sharing because otherwise I'll lose the PowerPoint, but maybe if in your window next to the Zoom link, you can have a look. So I'll pass it on then to Adam, who will tell us more about the whole process. And I must say that this collection will never have seen the light from Adam having come to us by, no, I would say by chance, but at the right moment to make this project possible.
Thank you, Séverine. It really is a great pleasure to be here at the launch of this collection today. Thank you so much to all of you who have been a part of making it possible. This collection had its origins. It emerged from consideration of what type of electronic resources would best complement the Laudato Si Research Institute's physical library. We found ourselves increasingly drawn to exploration of an open access collection, which might in particular serve those in lower income settings. And in late 2020, we conducted a survey of over 60 academics, students, priests, religious, and activists on 6 continents, exploring their access to academic books and resources on integral ecology and theology. And the report of that is available on our website. Overall, perhaps you might click on the slideshow again, so we're seeing. Yeah. Thank you, Séverine.
Sorry.
That's right,
yeah.
Great.
Okay, let me go back, yeah.
Overall, around 2/3 of respondents reported that they had no more than occasional legal access to the books they wanted to read on integral ecology and theology. And among academics from lower and middle income countries, this figure was over 70%. Again, also, if you'd go on to the next slide, just under half of respondents felt that their access significantly limited their work in this field, with over 72% of academics from lower and middle income countries feeling this way, if you go to the next slide. So it was clear that there was a strong case for widening access to academic resources on integral ecology in order that all those interested could engage with the urgent and critical discourses taking place. Just as we were aware that these limitations on access reflected wider systemic issues and injustices in academic publishing, which we could not hope to address on our own. There were nevertheless a range of options we considered and about which we consulted respondents to the survey. These included supporting new open access publications, whether books or articles by authors from regions less well represented in the existing literature, as well as supporting libraries in lower resource settings to access journal articles relating to integral ecology. However, enabling key books already published in the field of integral ecology to be made open access received significantly more support than the other options. And this was also the approach that we as an institute favored. Several respondents emphasized that the other approaches we were considering were valuable, but were necessarily longer term efforts. We thus set about trying to develop the open access collection that you have today. Respondents indicated that they favored transdisciplinary works, exploring ecology in intersection with questions of justice, spirituality, ethics, and development. At the same time, we wanted the collection to reflect the breadth of the field of integral ecology. Survey respondents had, during the survey, made suggestions of authors and books they would like to be included. And we then convened a smaller panel who provided more detailed guidance on the books that they would be most interested in seeing in such a collection. We listened to these recommendations while also drawing on expertise at the Institute. We were clear that we wanted more academic texts, favored more recent publications, and wanted books from a range of publishers. We also took the decision to include only English books in this collection, while at the same time hoping that the collection might catalyze similar collections in other languages. We then worked with Catherine Anderson and Philip Hess from Knowledge Unlatched, who are, I believe, on the call, who approached publishers to see for which books we could reasonably acquire the electronic rights in line with these above criteria. The process of negotiation and acquisition has not been entirely seamless, and there are still a couple of books which we're hoping to include in this round of the collection. But we've overall been delighted with the books that we've been able to include in the collection. I personally would like to thank Catherine and Philip, along with all the survey respondents and panelists, again, several of whom have joined us today, for contributing their time to make this valuable collection possible.
Thank you very much, Adam. And it was a long process, but as I said, this would never have been seen the light without your work and your persistence as well, and your many inquiries. So thank you so much. So we'll hear from those who have participated in the survey, who've kind of been in the background behind this project. So we have Cheryl, who is working in the Philippines, who is the program director of the Laudato Si movement in the Asia Pacific region. I mean, you have her profile in the brochure that Harriet has sent you. So Cheryl, can you share a bit about how do you think this library will help the Laudato Si movement and catalyze social action for environmental change?
Thank you very much, Sabrine, for the kind introduction, and good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. I am honored that in my small way, I have been part of this project, and I'm grateful to be with you all today. I was asked to share about how having access to a collection of integral ecology and theology books can be useful for environmental activists, particularly for a movement such as ours, the Laudato Si movement, and for the Laudato Si animators in Asia Pacific. So may I first introduce you to our context as a movement. Some of the participants I have seen are actually very much part of our movement. So the Laudato Si movement is a network of Catholic institutions and individuals committed to our mission of inspiring and mobilizing the Catholic community to care for a common home and achieve climate and ecological justice. So since 2015, we have been working to support our global network to live and animate the message of Laudato Si through various initiatives and campaigns focused on eco-spirituality, sustainability, and advocacy. In Asia Pacific alone, thousands of Laudato Si animators, both lay and religious, and hundreds of Catholic organizations are working to bring Laudato Si to life in their communities, organizations, and institutions. And this is done through ongoing dialogue and collective action to bring about change. And these publications will play an important role in the work of the Laudato Si animators, as we are always in need of resources which could enrich the ongoing dialogue that is happening within the communities. We need resource materials to support our ongoing ecological conversion and deepen our understanding of integral ecology and the message of Laudato Si encyclical, of course. The context in my region, however, is that these books are hard to find, both online and offline, and it's very hard to find books that help build one's knowledge about Laudato Si and about integral ecology. Not only are they hard to find, but the costs of the books in general in most countries in the region is prohibitive, particularly for low-income countries. In addition, in most places, we do not have extensive public and private library systems, and only big universities would have this. And therefore, making these books available would be very beneficial to our network. There would, however, be some limitations. One is that internet access continues to be a big issue in many places. Second, many would not have access to computer or gadgets which are necessary to read ebooks. And third, language barrier is of course present, as Asia Pacific speaks a wide array of languages, and English is first and second language only to a very few countries. However, the Laudato Si animators are always translating key messages of the encyclical and of course of this book then into their local languages. And I have spoken with some animators who have shared some great ideas about how we can use the books. Some of them plan to take the message, the key messages of the books, and reflect on what it means for their community during Laudato Si book club meetings and during regular gatherings of Laudato Si circles and animators. Many of our Laudato Si animators also engage with the local church, and they support in the implementation of Laudato Si encyclical by helping to educate communities and groups on the message of Laudato Si and on integral ecology. They also contextualize this message based on the local situation, and these books would of course be a very valuable resource for them. The key messages can also be turned into bite-sized information, which you can upload on social media, or you can create a video for those who are not fond of reading long texts. This actually are most useful when we do campaigns. Our movement also offers free online training for those who wish to be Laudato Si animators in their communities. And definitely these books would be a great resource for the training facilitators. And so we are grateful to Laudato Si Research Institute for making these resources available to everyone. And congratulations once again for the launch of the collection. Thank you for this opportunity to share. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Cheryl, for this I think very positive account, but also about the limitations about the language and the internet access and the computers. Yeah, I think reducing the gap in the injustice is an ongoing process. I think justice always will escape us, but it's a little step towards it. So from the Philippines, we move to Nairobi, and we have Peter Knox with us, given that John Okoria is apparently stuck in traffic in Mombasa. Peter Knox is also at the Ekima College, which is a Jesuit college of formation in Nairobi, and you are professor of environmental ethics. And yeah, so over to you about what the collection can help in your own work at Ekima College.
Thank you very much, Severine, and thank you for the introduction. As Cheryl and Adam have already mentioned, the cost of books published in the global north sometimes makes them prohibitive for readers and for academic institutions in the global south. I think that's not news to any of us. For example, our librarians here at Ekima would think twice about buying a book in the region of $20. If a book costs $30 or $40, then our chief librarian would commiserate with us and encourage us to look elsewhere to try to find another supplier or to try to find another text. We're already addressing this in a small way at Ekima College. We have something which is called the African Theological Networks Press, in which we try to get co-publishing agreements with publishing houses in the global north, and they permit us to publish books or co-publish books or republish books here in Africa. And then we've got various nodes of the network, and we distribute the books among ourselves in East Africa, Southern Africa, and Western Africa. So far only in the English-speaking worlds or academic worlds, but we're hoping to go into French-speaking publishing areas as well. So we're trying to get books published in the global north available here in the global south at affordable prices. A book which would normally be of the area of $20, $25, we're able to publish here as print on demand or something like that for about $6, $7, or $8, and then distribute them in our networks here. So that's an attempt we're making to address the dearth of published material in Africa. Africans are particularly, but obviously not exclusively, hard hit by the global economic crisis, global climate crisis, and by fallout from the throwaway culture. And part of the reason of this is obviously Africans are living much closer to the soil, and people living and working on living from the earth, they get much more affected by any changes in climate or any changes in weather from one year to the next. For many reasons, Africans are scientifically, I would use the term illiterate, or less literate than people who've grown up in the global north, or who already have a scientific formation and background. And many Africans don't make systematic connections or don't have systematic understanding of what's happening in the world of science and technology and how that impacts their lives, either in the cities or in rural areas in Africa. Many African people are vulnerable, and many African countries are vulnerable to exploitation and to being hoodwinked by local elites and by multinationals which want to dump, for example, nuclear waste or chemical waste or textile waste in Africa. And I think Laudato Si as a document is very, very fine. Pope Francis points us to so many different ways in which the global north and the global south are kind of almost codependent in the throwaway culture. Any increase in environmental literacy in the form of information, books, pamphlets that would be accessible to African students and African future priests and religious would be very, very useful. As I teach environmental ethics, I can basically only give students pamphlets at the moment and no full texts, you know, which they can read from start to finish. And I think this library is a very great initiative that'll make our students, or give our students access to books. It's very good for them. We have, paradoxically, in Kenya, we have very good bandwidth, and we have reasonably reliable and inexpensive internet. Most people nowadays have access to a cell phone or a tablet. Even people in villages, the Maasai, kind of, who are walking around looking after their cattle, they do a certain amount of work selling their cattle or whatever, using their cell phones. So there is penetration of internet access and of devices. I'm very pleased that this library has introductory level works, because I think that's the level at which most African readers are going to be able to engage with the material in the library. And I'm certainly going to be putting some of the books on the bibliographies of my courses in the future. Thank you again to the Laudato Si Research Institute for making these books available to us.
Thank you, Peter. And I think you've highlighted there maybe another challenge, which is the inequality, I would say, of power and argumentation. That if you don't have information, you cannot have the same level of let's say, resistance. But yeah, and how this library can help in equipping people's minds to resist the power inequality. And actually, there'll be a book on environmental ethics that is coming in the next couple of days. That will be online. We've had some delays, but there is one that will be open access, hopefully next week. So from Nairobi, we move to France, to Paris with Xavier, who will tell us a bit more about the French or the European context, or maybe the French-speaking context in Africa.
Yeah, thank you. I'll speak in the name, let's say, of two institutions. One is Campus de la Transition, inspired by Schumacher College in England and Sustainable Institute in South Africa. And it's a lay organization. And from this point of view, these open access books, well, those who are, let's say, not directly Christians are very interesting as resources for formation. It's a place where people live here in a kind of eco-village, but it's a place for formation, for university formation. We receive students from different schools, from different universities, and they come to work with us. So open access books are always good to share with students who tend to go to free books more than those they have to pay, even if they have higher means than in other parts of the world. But maybe one interest for us here at Campus de la Transition as a lay organization is also to open access to the people coming here to spiritual resources. French is mostly a lay country. People have no more religious roots, but once they start to get interested in the ecological transition movement, often they open their mind to something like spirituality. And at this point, they may be interested in reading, hearing from the religious traditions. And so even in this lay place, open access to Christian books about integral ecology may help them to have a better spiritual life, let's say, and to start a dialogue with at least one religious tradition. And as we receive students from universities, they are interested in books, I mean, in serious work. So I'm very pleased from the Campus de la Transition point of view to have access to this open access Laudato Si collection. The other point of view is from Centre Sèvres. So I'm currently studying at Centre Sèvres, and I'm here with a group of students of these Jesuit faculties in Paris, philosophy and theology. And we came here at Campus de la Transition for 3 days of seminaries. And from this Centre Sèvres point of view, I would say perhaps what's more interesting is the eco-theology books and resources. We have some of them in French. There are French authors, but as I have discovered, for example, last year when I was doing my master in London, I would say most of the research today in eco-theology is published in English. So for students in theology today in France to have access to open access book in English is kind of opening their mind and their intellectual resources to discover the eco-theology field, and to have access to open PDF format, for example, help them to have access to easy translation through internet, through DeepL, through, I don't know, Google Translator. So a professor in French can use the resource in English and give access to, I don't know, 3 pages, easy translation, or students can use the books. And even if they don't really have the level of English, they have an easy access to systematic translators. So that's very useful. And I know that Centre Sèvres, for example, have asked me next year to give a workshop for beginners in theology on eco-theology. And I think I will use part of the books, for example, 3 pages of Celia's book, Introduction of Eco-Theology, and some French resources. And I'll use some pages and some translations in French. So the PDF format is very useful for that. So thanks a lot. I would say from a lay point of view, and from a more very useful collection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xavier. I don't think we had thought about the Google Translate and how much having an electronic version would be useful in that regard. So thank you. Adrian, you also have a language issue in Argentina and Latin America. So can you tell us a bit more about this library, this project?
Thank you, Sev. And my first words ought to be of congratulations, heartfelt congratulations for this wonderful initiative to the Laudato Si Research Institute at Oxford University. I think my peers from around the world, Cheryl, Peter, and Xavier, have already outlined many of the benefits and also some of the limitations that come with this collection. I think this is unavoidable. Adam presented us with the process, a very thoughtful, reflective process of prioritization. What is prioritized and at the expense of what? This has been made very transparent, and I think there's not much to add in that regard. But I wish to emphasize the service dimension that this project has for the context of Latin America. In particular, I stand here today representing the Red de Universidades para el Cuidado de la Casa Común, which is translated into University Network for the Care of the Common Home. This network has certain particularities I would like to share with you, because I think it brings a new dimension which has not been mentioned by my colleagues before, to the potential of this, the transformative potential of this project. First of all, yes, there is a language issue. To get that out of the way, I also hadn't thought about the power of translators such as Google or DeepL. I can definitely recommend DeepL Translator to circumvent that problem. And thank you. So thank you for that, Xavier. But I wanted to emphasize the usefulness of this project for, I think many people have mentioned in the current social, scientific, and the humanities landscape, have emphasized the fact that we're living in a network society. This network character provides with new opportunities for furthering the idea of an integral ecology and contributing to an ecological conversion or an ecological transition of our world. One thing that needs to be emphasized in that regard is that we as church institutions, as religious actors, are latecomers to this debate about the sustainability transition. It's a debate which has been ongoing for decades, and we have really only joined in a mainstream way since Laudato Si, that is 2015. So this connection between the religious world and the academic world and the broader social world, as Xavier has just mentioned, is key. If we really want to if we're really serious about this ecological transition, then we need to prioritize the interface between religion and the rest of the world. And this is exactly what the network I am representing here today is set out to do. Just let me give you a brief example. As in France, yes, Severin.
No, just brief. I'm aware of the time. You're already 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just let me give you a very brief example. The University Network of the Care of the Common Home is composed by 42 universities in 9 Latin American countries. In the case of Argentina last year, there was a Congress organized, Laudato Si Congress, together with the 2 head bodies of the university world, private and public universities. In particular, public universities are, I would say, almost anti-clerical. Yeah, it's a very strong secular tradition. And the fact that they have been ready to join the University Network for the Care of the Common Home to put up this Congress is really an encouraging sign. I think this library collection will serve in a very, very decisive manner to advance and to bridge these different worlds. So that is, for the sake of time, all I have to say. Thank you so much for the opportunity of joining in the joy and also in the reflection about the importance of this collection.
Thank you very much, Adrian. That's something else that we hadn't thought of. Yeah, I think Flaxo didn't want to organize an event with the UCA at the time. So I'm glad that things are changing thanks to ecology. So we have a lot to thank for here to our 3 donors who've made this possible as well in terms of funding it because publishers had to forego the sales of the books. You mentioned, I think Peter mentioned, well, it's $25 a book, and so we had to finance the sales that publishers were not making. So we're going to hear first from Celia from the Laudato Si Research Institute, who has put significant resources behind that. So Celia. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, so really what I'd like to add is that it's not just financial resources that the Institute has put into this, but also some of our human resources. So both Severin and Adam have put endless hours of their time to enable this to happen. And I'm really grateful to them, but also grateful to all of you for coming today, because the virtual landscape is a really crowded space. And I'm aware that some are becoming reluctant to use it, but it's the only real practical option for many people. And in a sense, this collection is about the practical option for many, even though many of us would like to be able to have a book in our hands. It's not really feasible to do that. So I think it's a real privilege and joy for me to be part of this. Not only because the Integral Ecology Library reflects our own commitment to support Pope Francis's intention to make integral ecology more widespread, but also the way it links intellectual and practical knowledge across a whole range of different disciplines. And that last point by Adrian about dialogue with the secular worlds and so on is something that's been, if you like, integral to my own work and also the work of this institute since its inception as well. So, but we want to encourage and foster education in particular through this collection, including theological education for ecological responsibility, whether that's by believers or not. And just as Laudato Si was on care for our common home, where common home is stressed, in other words, we're all members of this planetary home in which we live, whether we're whatever religion that we might have, whatever geography we're situated in, whatever culture we're from. And that, in a sense, is so important. But in addition to that, I think our institute was founded to support those who are more on the margins of society, and so that we can hear the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor together rather than separately. And this collection is intended to allow those who are concerned about what's happening to our planet and what's happening to our world, and I don't need to list all the things going on at the moment that raise those concerns, to enable people to get better informed and also start to contribute their own insights, because we all have so much to learn from one another. And so LSRI and this collection as well is about accompaniment, coming alongside and supporting, but also learning from and understanding, what the perspectives of different kinds of knowledge. So we hope that there will be a genuine sort of knowledge exchange, that over time that those who do read these resources will start to create their own from within their own cultures. And that is really what my dream is in this collection, that it won't, that we will become insignificant. If we could sort of disappear as authors and others start to pop up, that would be, I think, amazing progress in a very real kind of way. And so it fits then with our vision for catalyzing and supporting research right across the world. It may be that some European or Western groups, such as the CRES program, who are also going to be using this collection, will benefit, but they're also a global institution as well. So we do also, I should add, have a physical integral ecology library, which has benefited hugely from the generous donation of Paul Santmeyer, who I think is also on this call today. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank him for his generosity, because like many things, when one individual is generous, it sort of triggers similar generosity in others, and any generosity that we've tried to open up is dependent on other people being generous. So if anybody, does have the opportunity or occasion to come to our institute, we do have a physical library here as well that could be used as a resource. And so while the current collection is small itself, we intend to also make more resources available over time. So that's our hope, that it's a little seed project, but it will grow over time. And my hope as well is that it will trigger other authors to be inspired to write, to think, to join our effort, as it were, because the problems are so intense and intertangled, we can't possibly solve them from one perspective. So I think that's enough from me, but thank you so much, everybody, for coming here and joining us in this initiative.
Thank you very much, Celia. You made very important points for us to ponder. Then Georgetown, we have Jennifer, who is also behind this project.
Yeah, so not only am I the 7th speaker in today's lineup, but I'm also following a series of distinguished leaders highlighting the importance of this collection. So what can I add? Maybe I will add just a bit about the power of books. But first, I'd like to highlight how excited Georgetown is to be here today. Georgetown University launched its environmental justice program this year. With our work to advance just sustainable transitions, we are delighted to be part of this endeavor that expands access to pivotal books on integral ecology. In my own work, I have witnessed thousands of people coming together from around the world and across local communities, governments, and universities to work towards a shared vision of a world where natural and human communities flourish as one. I am grateful to have been part of and inspired by these deep collaborations. And although I have many great stories to tell about my experiences, what I am truly grateful for are the pivotal moments of insight, the insight that I have learned from others through conversation, through mentorship, and through books. These moments, together with the experiences that were shaped by them, have made me who I am today. And although my son does not yet have my community of collaborators and colleagues, I can see how books have started him down this shared path. In fact, I know that exact moment my son decided who he would become. One day, as we walked into his school, I asked my son why he worked so hard in classes. He replied that he wanted to be a marine biologist who would speak for the sharks. I need to learn so that I am ready when it counts. Curious, I followed up by asking when he had realized marine biology was his path forward. My son surprised me when he announced that it was 5 years earlier while reading a book. My son still remembered the exact book, and he still remembered the exact page. A page that did not highlight the incredible beauty of sharks, nor detail their extraordinary behavior. It was the page that examined the relationship between sharks and people that attracted his attention. This page, with its insight of the connection between nature and himself, sparked a desire to go deeper as a marine biologist. So I am truly grateful to this community of writers who works beside me in the field and who shares their insights with both me and my son, with this generation and the next. And I'm thrilled that they will be more accessible to those who, like me and my son, are seeking connection. Georgetown looks forward to seeing the impact of this investment in the future.
Thank you very much, Jenny. It's very powerful. And I think we all probably have stories about books that have changed our lives and made us who we are today. And so our third donor is from Notre Dame, and Clemens, who represents the institution. and also know why, because I think Notre Dame has also been thinking a lot about its open access resources. And so over to you.
Thank you so much. And first of all, congratulations to this wonderful project that we have seen come to light. And thank you for inviting me. Obviously, Notre Dame is blessed by Celia's legacy So Celia has been in Notre Dame and then has left a mark there. And so it was very natural that based on what Celia has done in Notre Dame, that Notre Dame would be part of the supporters of this important project. Let me just say a few words about our students. Our students here are deeply concerned with what will happen to the planet or what is happening. We have undergraduates as a focus in Notre Dame, and they are struggling with this fact that they are growing up into a dying planet, or at least a fragile planet. And they try to make sense of what it means for them. And they need guidance and they need deep conversations. The way I understand Laudato Si, it's an invitation for deep conversations that go beyond technology and even they go beyond ethics. So I think Pope Francis encourages us to transform our technological challenges into moral questions and the moral questions into spiritual challenges. So ultimately it is about an ecological conversion. And this is where philosophy and all the other disciplines are important, but where theology has a very important role to play and a unique contribution to make. I would also like to say that our students are very grateful for online, free, accessible resources. We have a certain tradition in Notre Dame that professors assign expensive textbooks to students, which they have to buy. And I always try to avoid that. I never do that. So there is enough out there for students to access without extra costs. Notre Dame is expensive enough. So having access to a collection where the students can trust the theological thinking and the deep commitment to integrative ecology behind it is just an amazing project. I'd also like to say that I work at the Keough School of Global Affairs. And the Keough School of Global Affairs here at Notre Dame is a very young school. It was opened in 2017. And it was based on the idea of integral human development, IHD. It was inspired by Laudato Si. Our founding dean was very impressed by Laudato Si and wants to base the whole school with its now 70 faculty members on Laudato Si and integral human development. Obviously, that's a challenge. We don't really know what it means in everyday life. Our faculty are diverse. They come from different backgrounds. So we have many conversations about what does it mean for our respective disciplines and backgrounds. We have a focus on peace and ecology. We have a focus on migration and ecology. And unfortunately, the war in Ukraine has many facets, including an ecological facet as well. So I think that the collection will be a wonderful tool also for the Keough School, as we have our new strategic planning process and will play an important role in our future planning for events and also conversations. Also, the university as such, and this is my final point, the university as such is committed to sustainability. Father Jenkins, our president, is engaged in the so-called Vatican dialogues, where representatives from the oil industry meet with Vatican representatives to think about the change that has to happen. And you cannot make it happen against those who hold power, but only with them. That's the philosophy. So I'm so grateful for the collection, the theological contribution, asking the first questions and the last questions. I remember an anecdote, the image of God as the justification of human dignity is too beautiful a story not to be told in a secular realm. That's what Jeremy Waldron once said. And having the theological voice present in the secular realm of ecology is such an important contribution, and too important the contribution to be spared in the secular world. Thank you for providing access. It's part of also a wider project of decolonizing scholarship and making important sources available in an inclusive way. Congratulations and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Clemens. And on this last note, the decolonizing scholarship is also a process that is ongoing and would take a while. So if you have any questions, I see in the chat someone has posted a comment regarding indigenous knowledge and how to integrate that in so-called scientific knowledge. And I'm also aware that books is something that could be seen as Western, that other traditions are more oral. But as Cheryl noted, there is a lot of contextualization possible. So not only translation in terms of the Google translation, but translation also in terms of the cultural context where people live. And I think as Celia said so powerfully, in the end, if our names disappear from the book and we have, this would be a natural outcome. It would mean that these books have been used in a way that is intended, that serves the local communities. So please feel free to ask questions either through the chat or raise your hand. Yes, Charlotte Bannister.
Yeah, thank you so much. In response to that last point, I think it would be absolutely wonderful if somewhere along the line, multifaceted library with both oral tradition, stories, video and film, and maybe stories and podcasts from the wider world interested, and definitely Indigenous communities could also be included, which would give people an access who are, as it were, learning more visually and auditory as opposed to just literally. So, and that might be a consideration in the future, and I would be really happy to help support that and help try and fund that.
Thank you. So yeah, we made a decision for the moment to look at, to have these academic books, but if you can get us in touch afterwards, thank you. Someone put it about the role of liturgy, and there are a few books that talk about it. There is the one I remember from the top of my head. No, but there are a few books that talk about liturgy in kind of motivating for ecological action. There is one chapter, I'll tell you which book it is. It's the one from Richard Borkman on Bible and ecology. He says a bit more about that. There's actually one chapter about it. Any further comments? I'm aware that we've left a lot of things. Adrian? Yeah.
Yeah, Severin, I was thinking in the context of this broader process of decolonialization of scholarship that Clemens made reference to, I think this initiative is a great place to start with that project, in the sense of freeing copyrights of essential readings in the field of integral ecology. But I think this can be brought much farther, and I see that we have represented here a broad network of activists, funders, universities, and so on. Maybe this initiative can serve as an inspiration for fostering a broader project of promoting a culture of open access, university-based publishing that reclaims academic publishing from the hands of commercial systems. No? We know that there has been a strong drift, and that is the ultimate cause that is blocking access to academic knowledge, also in the field of integral ecology. So I think that should be the ultimate vision, not of this project only, but of course of the academic world, if we really want to, as I said before, to promote a stronger impulse towards the ecologization of this world. So I would encourage you all to seek, build alliances and build opportunities, open up opportunities to bring this project much further than this initial step.
Thank you, Adrian. I think the policy that we have is that instead of opening up more books that open access that have been published, to publish books open access, accessible, so that whatever we write from now on, whatever we research from now on, should be made available. And I think the LSRI is very much, on taking that on. So we are going to launch a new, some series of research papers and briefing notes and other material that would be accessible. That definitely the way forward. Adam, do you want to say a few words? I feel like you are, I don't say the father of the library, but you kind of really put it, was an idea in my head back in August 2020, and from the idea you made it a reality.
Adrian, I can't get it. I'm with you in your vision there, and I hope that is the direction that Laudato Si Research Institute and the rest of us are able to help things move. So yeah, this and to Charlotte, I think your point is a key one. I don't know whether Pedro Walpole was on the was on the call earlier on. I think he might have left now, but when I was doing the consultation, he made the key point that the animation of texts like this is a critical step in the process of seeing the insights and the reflections that they contain being transmitted beyond the confines of academia. And so certainly some of the introductory texts can do a good job of taking them out into churches and beyond. I think I personally have come to recognize that perhaps that it is going to be that question of working with others that is going to make it possible, that for the Laudato Research Institute, that its particular expertise isn't necessarily in those points of animation and more grassroots level education, but absolutely I would hope that partnerships with those and organizations like the Laudato Si movement that are, and that as Cheryl and her colleagues are doing, that are working to translate the reflections more broadly, is absolutely critical. And so I hope that we will see whether in direct connection with the Laudato Si Research Institute or simply in partnership, see the types of collection that you envisage and espouse grow as people are inspired by and drawing on the types of texts that are made available today. So I think that's a critical point. Thank you for making it, and indeed for your willingness to support it. Just to underline that. So yeah, we will have to think about how to move things forward. The research network that we are part of can be part of keeping this conversation going, and I hope that I have been so encouraged by the people's willingness to get behind this and the Institute's willingness to support it. And I would just encourage the rest of you that if you feel that inkling that something might be possible, and then have your conversations and see where they can lead, because this today is certainly an outcome of just a few thoughts that have then mushroomed.
Indeed, it's on the one hand the end of a process, but the beginning of something new, of a new process, and yeah. So we hope that initiatives and further developments will emerge from that, and new books and new resources and new ways of working together, civil society, universities, and grassroots communities. Yeah. Good. It's 2:00 here, so we need to come to close this session. But thank you very much. And as I said, this is work in progress. Any feedback you have, please let us know how we can improve and include and modify, or other suggestions. All welcome. Thank you very much for coming today, and have a good evening, good day, or good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be
Thank
well.
you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you and congrats.
Bye.